Hello and welcome to Split Second. My name is Abigail and I am the cross country and track and field beat reporter for Rock M. And I'm incredibly excited because we have Coach Jordon with us today. She is the assistant track and field coach at Mizzou Track and Field. And she has a long plethora of resume excellence, All-American heptathlete at ISU, holds top 10 marks in the pentathlon, heptathlon, and also a number 9 mark in the javelin. Coached at Graceland and UAB, and then took over the multis group and sprints group from Coach Natasha Brown this August. So we are incredibly excited to welcome her to the show and just kind of get to know this program and get to know especially this multi-event athletes that you finally have some prospects that I think are going to do some things this season. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I have to admit my own bias. My brother went to Iowa State University, so I'm a bit of a Cyclone fan. I'm from Iowa, so I was very excited to see that you still hold some records, even from like 2011, 2013. You've still got your name in the record books.
Yes, which I was surprised, but yeah, exciting.
Looking back to your collegiate career, because I think it's so valuable when coaches have collegiate experience and then can apply that to coaching, what lessons do you still find yourself kind of sharing with your athletes from what you learned when you competed at ISU?
Don't take anything for granted, live every day to your fullest. You don't know when it's going to end and it goes by so fast. Like I can blink and I remember I was a freshman sitting in the first team meeting we ever had with like people I've never seen before. And then you blink again and it's like, 10 plus years after that and it's done, so it goes by so fast. So just take every day as best you can and go from there.
I love that. I love that that's not logistical or technical skill. It's just like being in the moment and kind of a personal perspective to approach it with. Okay. So you had several different coaching positions before taking this most recent move to Missouri. What excited you about the opportunity to coach at Missouri?
I remember them being in the Big 12. So that kind of dates me a little bit. So when Mizzou was in the Big 12, being able to see them competing against them, and just having they were successful. They were a powerhouse. And so being able to be a part of that, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And it's close to home. I'm from Iowa like you. So being closer to home is much appreciated. So
Nice. And when you met with Coach Halter and kind of met with the other coaches, what struck you about this program's kind of brand?
the coaches were all in. It was nice to be able to be interviewed for a program that everybody was on the same path of what the program wanted to do as a whole. So you don't always see that, but you do at the same time, and everybody was willing and excited, welcomed me with open arms. So it was nice to be able to be a part of that.
That's awesome. Okay, talking about what this program is all in about and where the program is going, let's kind of transition into the 2025 season. So you get to open with 5 indoor consecutive meets now. I'm so excited to watch this team in person finally. The new banked track looks awesome. So that's exciting just alone and being able to host and compete on home turf. But looking ahead to SEC indoors and outdoors, last season didn't have any pentathlete or heptathlete athletes competing at SEC indoors, but then Emmanuel broke onto the scene in outdoor season. What is your season outlook for your crew?
I'm excited. They all did really well this past weekend, so only upward from here. Emanuele just came back, so he didn't compete the first weekend, but he's going to compete this weekend. So I'm really excited. He's from Italy, so jet lag and all of that. I didn't want to compete him too early, but it's going to be great. You're going to see really good performances. They work super hard. They continue to work hard. So I'm really excited on the progress that you're going to see throughout the entire season and leading up to SECs.
That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about Emanuele because he was so young and to have several top 5 individual event finishes at SEC outdoors last season and then a top 8 overall finish, like just broke out into the scene in outdoors. And then I was like, who is this guy? Like it was really, really exciting to research and learn his story. What can you tell me a little bit more about who he is, both as a competitor and just as a student athlete?
He's a great person. um, down to his heart. He's awesome. He's such a hard worker. He's a really good mentor to the freshmen that are on the team. He leads by example, which I think is really important. Not just like on the track, but he takes care of himself outside the track. He's in the training room for hours. That could be good and bad. But he leads by example, and he's a really good person. So just seeing how he came in January, like never been to the United States. Last January came in, and we had to hit the ground running. So being able to see his transition throughout that whole entire process, and how he's done even better coming into this upcoming season, it's awesome to see. But he works so hard. He'll tell you that all the time. He loves to train. He doesn't like to take any downtime, and he's always asking and wanting more challenges, which I think is really impressive with him.
That's awesome. That must be exciting as a coach when the athlete is taking that initiative and you have to be the person kind of, all right, we got to balance, we got to take rest.
Yes, yes, exactly. It's good. It's a challenge for me being able to coach somebody like that, but it's awesome that he's so hungry and he's so eager to do things.
That's awesome. Which individual event of the decathlon do you see him making the greatest strides in this season?
That's going to be hard because he's going to do well in almost everything. This day two of the deck last year at SECs, he had personal bests in four of the five events. So, and he's progressing even more than what he was last year. So I could see a lot of improvement in all of the events all around.
Well,
So,
that's exciting. That's a good
mhm.
problem to have.
Yes, yes.
Okay, we'll stay on multis for a second before transitioning to some of your sprinter student athletes. So you have several younger talented recruits, including several Missouri natives. So Cannon Harlow, Parkville's Missouri, he competes in the heptathlon, and then Adrian Russell. Oh, excuse me, she's not from Missouri. Anna Ferguson from pole vault, I was thinking, but Adrian Russell from Boise, javelin and heptathlete. What does the training transition look like for these multi-event athletes from high school into the college level?
Yes, and also Brooke Sawatsky. She is also multi, um, and she's from Illinois. But those three, just seeing how they've progressed, multiple of them are like multi-sport athletes. So they kind of already know and understand what it takes to go from one sport to the next. So that transition, it's just more of a structured based transition, and them understanding, time management, how to take care of themselves outside of like mom and dad's house. So it's more of like a life skill type of thing right now, especially as freshmen moving into this, but they've all taken it great. They've done really well. They've transitioned well. I know it's difficult. I was there, so I understand that, but they've done a great job of adjusting and understanding, the time commitment that is put as being a multi athlete.
That's exciting. Take me through kind of your coaching approach to which events they'll compete in at which meets before they compete in the full pentathlon or heptathlon.
Yeah,
How do
so
you
we're
determine the order for those?
Yeah, so we're 2 weeks out. So our first multi is the end of January, the 31st and the 1st. It's at home, so we're super excited about that. But right now, it's just kind of getting them into some of their stronger events and making sure that we're boosting that confidence. Some of
Mm,
them haven't competed, obviously, in a collegiate, maybe the 60-meter hurdles they've never done. Some of them didn't have 60 hurdles indoors. They've only competed outdoors. So just getting them accustomed and comfortable with the environment that they're going to be put in. I think having these home meets is a blessing because they are able to be put in, high caliber competition. But as at home, it's a little less stressful with the traveling. So they're able to really be comfortable in going into those first events that they've never probably done before, moving into the multi. So looking at, what they haven't done, what they have done, and then looking at the competition that what we could bring in, we want to boost confidence. We don't want to deter confidence. So making sure that they're mentally ready for those types of competitions. And it just depends on the person individually on who and what I put them in. So like Cannon, for example, this weekend he's going to do the 60 hurdles pole vault and he's going to throw the shot put. Brooke is going to do the 60 hurdles. She did that last weekend. She did really well. Point 0.2 PR from her high school. So we should see a really good decrease in that time. She's also going to high jump and then throw the shot put. So just getting them prepared. And then the next weekend we'll train them through. So we'll get a full week of training, full week and a half before that first multi comes.
It's so nice with hosting those events that you get to control some of those variables in the competition and the routine and just have that kind of training ground before they're thrust into SECs, which is an incredibly competitive conference, especially for indoors. Okay, that's super exciting. Let's transition to pole vaulters a little bit. The Missouri all-time top 10 program marks are constantly being written across so many of the events. But interestingly, women's indoor and outdoor pole vault records haven't been disrupted since 2016. How would you and Coach Bray like to shape the development of that event for this program?
I mean, Coach Bray is doing a fantastic job. He has, Anna Ferguson, Anna Vedral, Allison Geen. All three of these young women are seeing progress and moving forward. Anna Vedral, I think, is going to break into that top 10 for sure. So that's going to be super exciting. Yes, Anna Ferguson has some work, but I think she could be somebody also as well to kind of get into those marks that haven't been touched in a long time. Mizzou used to be a huge powerhouse in the pole vault, and it's awesome to be able to now see kind of that growth in that area. And so it's really exciting. Coach Bray is an awesome addition to, the coaching staff. And so it's really cool to see kind of his critique because he also helps with the multis. So he does the men's pole vault and the multis. So it's
Oh,
really cool to, yeah. So it's awesome to be able to see kind of how he's transitioning and helping kind of build that area up, and especially helping in that multi group too. He's great. The athletes that he's coaching, they're going to do really well this year.
that's really exciting. It's cool that you
Mhm.
have that collaboration across the different coaching staffs then. What is the event that you feel most specialized in coaching for the multis?
I would say probably the hurdles and some of the jumping events. We do have Coach Chomoff here on staff, and he's one of the best jumps coaches I personally think in the nation. So it's really cool to be able to watch him and see him. But for me, I would definitely say like hurdles would be a strong suit for me.
And that's an event that individually hasn't been super competitive at Mizzou either. So it would be cool to see that take off in multis and then maybe carry over to the rest of the program. We could
Mhm.
use some 200 meters, some hurdlers, some 400
Yeah,
meters. I'm excited to see the
exactly.
expansion of the mid distance program in the future.
Mhm.
Okay. Heading on to the track now, Alicia Burnett was just breaking records all over the place last season. She is a 60-meter dash specialist, opened the season though with the 400 meter. Um, how do you build off that success from last season without kind of increasing any pressure? Or how do you channel that into a really effective season for her this year?
Just understanding that the plan is to make her successful. So that transition from Coach Brown to myself, her putting her trust in me. I know as an athlete, having a coach for several years, you build that relationship. And then, when they leave, that's kind of hard and tough to be able to open up to a new coach. And I do think she's done that. She's taken the initiative to understand that, my coaching style is different than Coach Brown's. Those shoes were really hard to fill. Obviously, she's an amazing coach, and so being able for Lisi to understand that and to welcome my coaching style has been a blessing. And the adjustment there, like we're learning each other and how we need to go about how we communicate, and just understanding her needs and wants as a student athlete. She's extremely talented. She works so hard. She's one of the hardest working, I think, student athletes we have on this program.
Wow.
And if you knew her story, it's amazing. She's a warrior of where she's come from and how hard she's worked to get where she's at. So it's just understanding that and knowing, like I'm going to do what's best for her as her coach and be able to push her forward. So it's just that constant communication and that trust, I think, is what, will get her to that next level, and understanding that I'm here to support her in any type of way that she needs.
That's super cool. I'm gonna shout out Effany Andre's podcast, her F It Up. She hosted Alicia.
Mhm.
That was such a cool conversation, kind of athletes on athletes, but also just learning about them as people and women and competing in the sport is so cool.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm curious from a logistical standpoint. The 60-meter dash, truly, the margin of error is 0.001. And if you're coaching an athlete who's already so close to the top, and you're talking about, yeah, we're building her up for success, what does success look like? And what does that training look like when you're searching for, the next millisecond or to shave off the next half a millisecond?
It's just her trusting in her ability at this point in time. She's talented enough to do it. So it's her understanding and being confident in herself. Error is going to happen.
Sure.
There's going to be good days, bad days, great days, horrible days. So it's understanding how to combat those and cope with those types of emotions that go throughout, your entire day. A meet day could be a huge roller coaster of emotions. And it's just understanding how can we make sure that we're keen, we're focused, and getting to where we need to be. So it's training is training, that one shoe doesn't fit all. So it's understanding how she recovers, how much energy she exerts like throughout different workouts. And so making sure that she's getting the best she can and recovering as best is making her feel good when she goes into that training. So really to me it's down to just having that confidence and understanding what she has to do.
And understanding her. I think that's most
Hmm.
impressive for your as a coach, you're working with such versatile athletes across so many different events and understanding what's most effective for her and her training and her recovery might look vastly different from someone else. It's very
Correct,
cool.
yes.
I'm a
Mhm.
track nerd, so I find all this
Yeah.
just so interesting. Okay, and so we talked a lot about newcomers and some returning athletes who've already had success, but as a coach, you might have some insight. Is there any athletes who are returning from injury or that might have not competed their best last season that you're really excited to take more strides this season?
I think Robert Hines and Steven Marks are going to do really well this year. Both of them are short sprints, 60, 100, 200. They look fantastic. Rob had a really nice PB last meet, so we should see great decrease in that time moving forward for both of them. So I'm really excited in how they're doing and how they're progressing. And then we have two freshmen, Isaiah Hill and Caden Hamner. They both specialize in the 400. Both of them very, very talented young men, and having a solid training coming into college, I think is going to be important. You should see their times drop as well. So those four I'm very, very excited about. And then obviously the multis, the new ones, Brooke, Adrian, and Emanuele, just and Cannon, just super excited to see. Emanuele did have an injury over the summer, so he's finally healthy and ready to go. So we're really excited about that.
I'm really glad to hear that he's recovered in
Mhm.
time to still compete for a full season. And yeah, Robert Hines, and he had some like good success kind of late last season, cracked into
Mhm.
some of those lists. So exciting to see him build upon that. Okay. Talked a lot about the athletes on your roster and kind of your overall season outlook. I would now kind of like to finish by just getting to know you as a coach a little bit more. I think we already have some insight. Clearly, you're someone who cares about each individual athlete and not just their logistical training, but how they approach competition mentally and physically. Overall, though, how would you characterize your personal coaching style?
I would say holistic, developmental, and definitely versatile. Not one shoe fits all. So each athlete has individual goals. Obviously, we have an end goal, right, which is nationals, which is conference point score, things like that. But each of them have different, strengths and weaknesses. So you have to play on those and understand those in order to build a successful program for them. Because it's not, I can't just write the same program for Alicia and for Rob because they're two different people. They have two different goals, two different styles, weaknesses, strengths, all of that. So just understanding, I think the student athlete as a coach is really important, and that's what I try to do.
That's very cool. Um, okay. How would you spoke a little bit about this when talking about multis, but going back to that just a little bit more for people who are unfamiliar with pentathlon or the heptathlon, myself included, how do you approach training across so many different disciplines and knowing which ones do you train every single event every week? What does like a weekly training cycle look like for that pentathlon or heptathlon?
So we don't hit everything every week. We don't have to. In the fall we try to separate it out. Having a solid weekly, monthly plan, I think is really important. But then you have to be able to change it and adjust. Some of them are going to compete in open events and they're going to be their strength open events. Sometimes in a regular meet, you're not going to be able to throw the shot put as a multi unless you're throwing and you're being competitive in that nature because of entry limits and things like that. So it's understanding where they need to see the growth and what we need to do individually for that. Because some are stronger in certain events than others, and you need to kind of play off those strengths, like I said, especially in the sprints and things like that as well. So no, we don't touch on every single event every week. You don't necessarily have to. That's my personal opinion as a coach. But definitely having a structure throughout the week and then being okay with adjusting that based off of how they feel and what that competition is going to look like for that week.
That's so interesting. That seems like that would be more sustainable too than having to look at the daunting list of every single event, every single that feels like that would be
Mhm.
exhausting.
Yes.
Okay, talking about you mentioned it, so I'm going to bring it up. At the end of the day, yes, it is personal development and student athlete first and their well-being. You are a coach though, you've got the other side where points scored and SEC placements and being competitive in an SEC environment that is growing world records every single indoors and outdoors. So how do you see Missouri fitting into this SEC landscape this season particularly? Let's start with SEC indoors.
Right. So last year, I think the throws and the jumps did a fantastic job
Mhm.
of kind of shifting that mentality and really providing that excitement in that area. And I know our distance coaches, Coach Levermore, Coach Duca, and Coach Anderson have done a fantastic job of bringing in super talented, mid distance and distance
Mhm.
runners this year, which you'll see just that strength in that area is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we brought in 5 transfers, well, not 5 transfers, sorry, 3 freshmen, 4 freshmen, and a transfer just this spring. And so just building on the growth of the speed and power and providing that distance, I think you're going to see Mizzou building up and rising back up to what it used to be several years ago. So there have been multiple successful individuals, that came through Mizzou, but I think
Mhm.
now as a team, we're in a better position to move forward and move up in the SEC.
I think and it's exciting that one of the programs kind of started that, and then the rest of you need the spark sometimes, so I'm excited to watch
Mhm.
the growth across the entire program. And now you can host, so you've got the banners on the wall, it's very visible, you wanna put some more up,
Yes.
and you've got people coming in. Um, Last question on that note, you are an ambassador of the Missouri Track and Field program as a whole, and you've got several meets coming up that people can come watch. What is your pitch to fans who may have never gone to a Missouri Track and Field meet before?
It's awesome. Come and check it out. You're right there. You're right in lane 6 coming off, the straightaway. It's fantastic. You're right in the mix. You're right in the excitement. You're going to see a lot of good marks. It is a little crowded. Seating is hard, but it's a track meet. I mean, it's the excitement is there. So you're going to be able to see the athletes, to meet the athletes, see the coaches in action, see all the other athletes that come out. There's going to be great performances. Um, and there's alumni events all the time, so you'll be able to see some of the alumni walking around, which I think is super cool to see that history,
Yeah.
continue to move forward with this program. Coach Halter's done a great job of helping facilitate that and provide these type of opportunities for everybody. And so it's going to be a great time to be a Mizzou Tiger.
That's exciting. And it's supposed to be crowded. That's a good problem to have. That means
Yes,
you've got people in the
exactly.
seats and so many athletes to watch who are going to make some great strides. So thank you so much for taking the time. I'm really excited to write up about a lot of these athletes and just follow the program the rest of the season.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.